This is surreal. We are often so oblivious about the turn of events and how the butterfly effect works, it will definitely blow your mind. Let us connect the dots here. What if I tell you that one of the biggest terrorist attacks, the 9/11 attacks that shocked the whole world, managed to give birth to one of the most infamous book trilogies of all time? Not only that, these books were adapted into sensational movies. Can you guess? Yes, it's none other than 50 Shades of Grey. Let's dig deeper into it. What is butterfly effect? How is it relevant here? If you haven't heard of this term before, let me brief you. So, the idea basically came from the chaos theory that suggests that a tiny change, which may seem like nothing at first, can snowball into massive consequences somewhere in the timeline. Credit goes to mathematician and meteorologist Edward Norton Lawrence, who came up with this theory. It's cool, right? How a single moment in time, one choice, or one spark of inspiration can ripple its effect that has the power to transform cultures, stories, and even industries. It's not just any scientific or philosophical idea. It is the way you look back at the world and realize how fragile and interconnected everything really is. You might be thinking, yeah, that is cool, but how is the 9/11 attack connected to 50 Shades of Grey? It makes no sense. I understand saying that 9/11 is connected to 50 Shades of Grey feels like combining Minecraft with Tinder, but hear me out. What if I tell you that among the thousands of witnesses of the 9/11 attack, there was a guy who saw everything unfold in front of his eyes? Now this guy gets inspired by this world-altering event and even creates a band. The band makes it big. In the early 2000s, they were sensational and grew a devoted fan base. One of their amazing fans was inspired to write a story about werewolves, vampires. Next thing you know, it pulled a whole generation of fans who were obsessed with this author's stories. This led to multiple fan fictions. Then, a writer who wrote fan fictions later becomes the one to write 50 Shades of Grey. Now, I won't spoil everything for you all already. You will have to stay with me to know about this tea because it's piping hot, so get ready to unfold the series of events with me.
Holy fuck! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Where it all started, the day of the attack. Recently, there's been a trend going over social media where people seem keen about discussing random historical domino effects. Now, the domino effect and butterfly effect may appear to be similar, but they are different. The domino effects act like a chain reaction, while the butterfly effect causes a tiny random event rippling out to become a massive event. You will be surprised to know that this event goes even deeper. It's wild how history is not just about the past, but it also influences the present. Now visualize this. The royal family of Russia, known as the Romanovs, gets overthrown during the Russian Revolution. With the monarchy off the charts, the power of the USSR rises and becomes the world's first communist superstate. Soon, the political fever of who can get the higher power begins. This led the US and the Soviets to be rivals with their countries locked in a civil war. Fast forward to the late 1970s, and the Soviets tried to invade Afghanistan to establish a communist government there. Now the US doesn't like it. President Ronald Reagan of the US acted like the Soviet Union's toxic ex by funding and giving Afghanistan weapons just to spite them. Must mention we are talking about billions of dollars worth of weapons. Unfortunately, these weapons and fighters did not disappear after the war. They eventually went on to form military groups like Al-Qaeda. This Al-Qaeda was responsible for none other than the 9/11 attack, the fine morning of September 11, 2001. The date is carved in modern history. Just another Tuesday morning, right? That's what everyone else thought as the New Yorkers continued with their day. Then the unthinkable happened, and nobody was ready for it. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 was hijacked by the terrorists, and it slammed right into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York. Before everyone could process what happened, just 17 minutes later, United Airlines Flight number 175 hit the South Tower. Everybody's suspicions were proven right that they were indeed under attack. There were thousands of casualties. The emotional wreck was havoc. Among the witnesses there stood Gerard Way, and that event definitely left a mark on him. Inspired by this, he created the band My Chemical Romance and was the lead singer himself. On the very day of the attacks, he went home, sat down with his guitar, and wrote the song Skylines and Turnstiles. As an artist, he wanted to make a difference. Gerard repeatedly mentioned in his interviews that My Chemical Romance was his therapy, as the band helped him cope with the trauma of the event. Alright, it was a bit emotional. Now, let's bring a shift in the air. My Chemical Romance wasn't just any rock band. They were a cultural movement. Apart from Gerard Way, the other members included Ray Toro, Frank Lero, and Mikey Way. Formed in 2001 in Newark, New Jersey, they were part of the emo, punk, rock, and post-hardcore bands in the 2000s. In 2004, their album Cheers for Sweet Revenge made it big. Songs like I'm Not Okay, The Ghost of You, and Helena were massive hits. It was the slogan for the emo fans back in the mid-2000s. The Black Parade in 2006 turned the tables. It hit number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. They became rock legends. The fans loved them for their dark aesthetic storytelling in albums and highly energetic performances. Welcome to Black Parade became the emo national anthem. The fans weren't just listeners. They lived and breathed the band's aesthetic, starting from black eyeliner to black jackets, lyrics scribbled on their notebooks. It was their era, and they owned it. When they disbanded in 2013, it left the fans disheartened. That is why with their return in 2019, fans went crazy with nostalgia. What was Stephenie Meyer's inspiration behind the Twilight Saga? My Chemical Romance plays a great role here because one of their biggest fans got inspired by them to be an author. Can you guess who she is? She is Stephenie Meyer. Her story is kinda iconic. She was a mom who studied English in college but never published anything. The whole Twilight journey started back in 2003 when she had this super vivid dream about a girl and a vampire in a meadow. That's low-key wild because how many people can actually turn their dreams into a successful novel? Well, she could. Back in October 2005, when Twilight hit the shelves, it was a massive success. The book dropped and boom, people went crazy for it. Bet Stephenie Meyer had zero idea that she was launching a full-blown frenzy. Stephenie mentioned in her book credits that she got inspired by the band My Chemical Romance while writing New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. Their music gave her the mood, that dark, emotional, dramatic energy, which totally matched the angst and intensity of Bella and Edward's story. The demands for more of Twilight went over the roof. When the rest of the Twilight saga got published, the audience inhaled it. It sold over 100 million copies. Then came the movie adaptations from 2008 to 2012, turning Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson into overnight icons. They were the heartthrobs for the teens and the young adults. Millions camped at midnight premieres. The Twilight made a tiny $37 million production jump to a huge $70 million in just the opening weekend. The Twilight-obsessed fandom turned Tumblr into their headquarters. You had whole blogs dedicated just to Edward edits, Bella outfit inspo, Jacob appreciation post, and of course, how can one forget the eternal Team Edward versus Team Jacob kerfuffle? It's like today's Team Conrad versus Team Jeremiah debate induced by Jenny Han. Fans would make mood boards and write essay-length posts describing Edward's inner turmoil. Twitter, Facebook used to be flooded with fan accounts. On YouTube, the fans definitely nailed it with the edits they made. That was an era. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter whether you hated it or adored it. Twilight reigned at the top of its game and pulled a whole generation of readers and writers. This vampire-human romance was like none other. It effectively dominated pop culture. Ah yes, to all the debates, it wasn't all about Bella and Edward looking dramatically at one another in the rain or Jacob shirtless every 5 seconds. Twilight had its own charm, man, and you can't deny it. Like, seriously, people weren't merely reading about love triangles and supernatural angst. They were re-authoring it, reshaping it, and putting their own twist on it. Wattpad, Tumblr, those domains went crazy with the content of Twilight. The wildest thing of all is it wasn't just about the narrative Meyer wrote. It was about the way she caused people to think, wait, I can write too. I can make something that makes people feel the way this book made me feel. That was the magic of Meyer's writing. Starting from the teen girls, college students, to even the grown-ups who had never even imagined themselves as writers, found this sudden spirit in them to begin writing, showing their own style, their creativity. They started to give life to their thoughts and put them in the form of words. When they started, there was no end to it. They found their own people who shared the same passion. People absolutely devoured those fanfics. Twilight fanfiction turned into this entire subculture, and you can map so many contemporary romance authors back to it. Like, the ripple effect was crazy. Authors who began with Twilight fanfics then went on to publish their own books, including some bestsellers. The series effectively seeded an entire generation of writers who discovered themselves in the fan spaces. It wasn't even all about writing. Consider how it influenced internet culture, including memes, role-playing accounts, and edits. Twilight was a moment. Meyer set an example that storytelling did not have to be limited to the standard literary platforms only. She made the writing feel accessible. No fancy publishing deal, no flawless scheme, just a computer, a dream, and an audience of readers who will devour it. You could see the change. Suddenly, fan fiction was not this nerdy little corner of the internet. It was mainstream, it was trendy, it was the thing that brought people from all around the world who experienced the same heart-thumping thrill when Edward sparkled in the sunlight for the very first time. And Meyer herself? She sort of rode the wave. She confessed that she wrote Twilight due to this real dream she had, and that raw, near spur-of-the-moment beginning made readers feel like, what? If their crazy idea can work out too. That sense of relatability, that thing of feeling accessible, is what made her effect so gigantic. How is all of this relevant to the creation of the 50 Shades trilogy? This is where things get crazier. Among these fans, there was someone very much obsessed with Twilight. She was a big-time fangirl. You must be thinking, oh, right, just another teenager in her fantasy world who wrote fan fictions for fun. Sorry to burst your bubble. Nope, she wasn't a teenager. This woman was in her late 40s who lived in London with her husband and kids and worked as a TV executive. Her life was nothing extraordinary. However, when Twilight came out, it absolutely changed her life. It woke something in her to write her own story. At first, a very classic move, new to the journey she started with a fan fiction. Not disclosing her real name right at the beginning, she thought of going with a pen name and chose Snow Queen's Ice Dragon. Around 2009 to 2010, when the Twilight movies were absolutely blowing the theaters and the fandom culture was at its peak. This woman posted her first fanfiction at fanfiction.net inspired by Twilight, under the title Master of the Universe. Honestly speaking, Snow Queen's Ice Dragon became a hot shot in the fan circle. At its core, the characters were Edward and Bella, but they were not based in Forks, Washington, nor did they have any YA-friendly high school romance situation. It had more tension, more angst, more intense, and had darker themes that Meyer's book never touched. She basically took the familiar characters and completely flipped their vibe. Talk about the fans, they went wild for it. The comment sections used to get flooded for new chapters and updates. People were addicted to it. They stayed up late at night to read the chapters, hyping every cliffhanger. After getting this response, there was nothing that could stop her now. She had gained the confidence she required, and this time she decided to publish it. It was a novel, and mind you, not just any novel. It was the 50 Shades of Grey. Did you guess it? I literally gave you the biggest spoiler. Yes, this woman is none other than Erica Mitchell, better known as E.L. James. Erica authored 50 Shades of Grey under the pen name E.L. James. Before publishing 50 Shades of Grey in 2011, James changed the character names from Edward and Bella to Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele. The names became a sensation themselves later, but she also modified the story so she could publish it. When it finally got published back in 2011, within a year, the sales skyrocketed. It sold over 125 million copies. You all know what came after it. The novel was turned into a Hollywood movie franchise. When Universal picked it up and announced they were adapting it for the big screen, the internet basically lost its mind. Casting rumors were trending for months. When Jamie Dornan as Christian Grey and Dakota Johnson as Anastasia Steele were announced as the leads, the reactions were intense. Well, there were mixed opinions, but everyone definitely talked about it. In 2015, right on Valentine's Day, 50 Shades of Grey finally hit the theaters. Talk about perfect marketing. They knew what they were doing. While love was in the air, they were on billboards, talk shows, everywhere. So who could escape it? The soundtrack absolutely went viral. People made edits on Love Me Like You Do by Ellie Goulding. The box office numbers were off the charts. The production house earned over $500 million worldwide. Can you imagine that kind of fandom to mainstream jump hardly happens these days? Oh yes, of course. They did not stop at just one movie. There was so much hype about how they could not give it to the fans. The movies came in sequels with 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed, thus wrapping the trilogy. People debated about it, which continues even today. Whether it was good or bad, was it problematic? How was the movie empowering? The debate just fueled the buzz even more. For some, it was their guilty pleasure. For some, it was an obsession, while for others, it just wasn't up to their taste. The main thing that nobody can escape is the fact that James turned her inspiration from a novel into a fan fiction, and then turned that into her own novel. Now, that's what you call a journey. The 9/11 domino effect even got to The Ellen Show. Now, if you think that we have connected all the dots, you are wrong. It did not end with 50 Shades of Grey. The domino effect had its contribution for the downfall of The Ellen Show in 2022 as well. It all happened when Dakota Johnson was invited on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, where she called out Ellen on her lie, which woke people up to see the dark side of the show. Voices were raised for workplace toxicity, and previous problematic interviews also resurfaced. It's crazy how the domino effect just works. It completely changed the trajectory of pop culture. The Dakota Johnson versus Ellen moment totally went viral. It still pops up in our Instagram and YouTube feeds. Dakota didn't hold back when Ellen tried to gaslight her into thinking she liked her in front of the audience and tried to claim Dakota didn't invite Ellen to her birthday party. Dakota replied how it was not the truth, and that definitely burnt, as it really washed the color off Ellen's face. The viewers absolutely loved Dakota's energy. She acted as a baddie even before baddie was a thing. Right after this, the speculations grew stronger. People questioned whether the kind image Ellen portrayed was true behind the scenes as well. Well, it didn't take much time. Soon, reports about bullying, racism, and intimidation took over the newspapers, tabloids, and all over the internet. Journalists, previous workers, and the public all had their eyes on her. The hypocrisy of Ellen was just so obvious now as people pointed out her passive-aggressive interviewing style and compared her with the other talk show hosts. It took one person to subtly call her out, and the rest just followed. With all the criticism, Ellen finally ended her show in 2022. See, isn't the domino effect just intriguing? So, all the dots are now joined. Now, you know the 9/11 attack did not just change world history. It also gave us My Chemical Romance, Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, and Dakota playing quite a role in absolutely crushing Ellen in her career. Now, that's not just any plot twist. It is worth a whole Netflix limited series. Think about explaining butterfly effect and domino effect to someone back in 2002. They would think you have lost your mind. Moral of the story? History is not boring. You just have to be smart enough to connect the dots to see how chaotic it actually is.